Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another Gooner Gathering. I am Lee, and tonight I am joined by Matt Roberts to talk about the Champions League Semifinal at the Emirates Stadium from Monday. How you doing, my friend? You okay?
I'm okay, just recovering from all the travelling around, but I'm good. How are you?
I'm definitely 100% okay. Nothing's actually gone wrong during this recording, and everything's been perfect, mate. Absolutely spot on. Wink. Look, if we don't have a laugh behind the scenes, mate,
We'll
you'll
try.
absolutely. But it's all good, mate. It's been another day in paradise in the day job, but the reason why we're here is to get stuck into the details of the Champions League. I know I covered it sort of very briefly on the night, but as I have your expertise with me today, I thought we'll break it down a little bit better. Our thanks also must go to Sam Wilson for sending us the intro clip, which I've used from the concourse of the stadium. It's always fun to hear from something a little bit different. So yeah, cheers, Sam. Thanks for that. I reckon what we'll do first before we get into everything else. Let's have a quick look at team news and see how we lined up. And it's very much an unchanged lineup from the first leg.
Yes, so it's pretty much as was expected. That first leg, I actually thought Sabrina was probably going to go in goal just because of how physical the Germans are, especially Wolfsburg, and having Pop, who actually was their top goal scorer at the European Championships last summer. I thought that they were going to be putting crosses in left, right, and centre for Pop to try and get on the end of, and but it didn't work out that way. But either way, I'm happy. I was happy with that squad. So Manu Zinsberger just in goal, Lotte Wubben-Moy, Jen Beattie, and Rafaela Souza as the centre backs. Noel Moritz and Steph Catley, no matter what people are trying to say, they are the wing backs. So it was almost like a back five. So which is where the confusion came from. Leah Volti and Frida Marnham making the pivot with Katie McCabe, Victoria Plover on the wing, Katie McCabe on the left wing, Victoria Plover on the right wing, and Stina Blackstenius up top.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. So let's get into the match and how it started. And this is something we definitely didn't talk about in the first take, but don't tell anyone, all right? And we completely forgot to mention. So it must have been about 5 minutes gone, and penalty claim for Wolfsburg after a apparent handball from Lotte Wubben-Moy. Your thoughts on that one? It wasn't actually given in the end. It was referred, but not given.
This was so confusing because it happened within the first couple of minutes.
Yeah.
And the worst thing about this is that when you watch women's football, you don't have VAR, so you don't have the complications, and you don't have the anticipation, you don't have the waiting. As soon as that check said, "Oh, by the way, it's a penalty check," they didn't even mention the offside or anything like that in the lead up. Everyone's just looking around. Because it took a long time for it to eventually become clear. And when it was given, okay, offside, fair enough. They've got the sort of semi-automated offsides, which they have in the Champions League, which actually was quite interesting because that's now the second time that has been used for this leg. Well, but
this toy
even. It was also used later on in the time. We'll talk about that as well. But that early one. One thing you don't want to do first thing within the first 10 minutes is have that over your heads, because if that was given, it's almost like here we go again sort of scenario, and it's not nice.
It's almost like inviting pressure from the get-go, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But Arsenal did manage to respond quite nicely with it. And about 6 minutes later, Stina Blackstenius managed to latch onto a pass, get past the goalkeeper, and put Arsenal 1-0 ahead on the night.
It was a brilliant pass from Victoria Plover. I've been very impressed with her since the Euros. She had a fantastic time. Funny enough, here she didn't really show much when we played her against when she was playing for Ajax. So that was always a question over her head, but she's actually stepped up and she's been fantastic, and she showed real quality throughout this match. And her that through ball was fantastic. It was it caused a lot of confusion between the Wolfsburg defence and Frum's, the goalkeeper, and just allowed Stina to just go straight. Essentially the defenders knocked it, and Stina's just run onto it and just tapped it into an empty net. And it's just when things are going for you, it's great to see, because this is now Stina's back-to-back games that she scored in. So the last time she didn't score was against Man United.
Fantastic. That was good to see. I mean, the wait was agonising, I'll say that, from the VAR in terms of trying to check, see if there was a foul in the build-up. But goal was eventually given. And actually, for the rest of the first half, pretty much through it, Arsenal had actually done pretty good. They managed to have some good passes to play. Unfortunately, we couldn't see the half out because a very familiar figure in Jill Ward managed to come up with an equaliser.
It all started with a Wolfsburg free kick. Noel Moritz brought down, I believe it was, no, not that, fine. She brought down one of the Wolfsburg players. Free kick, nothing to deal with, because it's essentially just by the halfway line. So you think nothing of it, but they go and put it into the box. Unfortunately, ball doesn't fall towards Katie McCabe, who went for it. Unfortunately, she misses the ball. It's headed towards Jill Ward, who's waiting just inside the edge of the box, and she hits it right into the right hand side of the goal. It was a really good worked goal, but unfortunately, it was hoping that something like that wouldn't happen, and you go in there with a 1-0 lead or try and see out the match, but it didn't happen.
It didn't, no. But it could have ended up worse right on the stroke of half time, and it was nice to see. And as we spoke about, Steph Catley had come back in the previous match, but it was nice to see her out there in the Champions League, and she prevented a goal scoring chance right on 45 minutes.
The slide tackle,
Absolutely.
that was fantastic.
Brilliant.
Throughout this game, like all the defenders, they put at one time or another, they made a slide tackle, and it was pitch perfect. It wasn't like it was mistimed or anything like that, or being dangerous. They just knew they were going to have to time this to perfection, and they did all of them. And it was one of those games where it was just great to see. And at that moment in time, you don't want to take a 2-1, be 2-1 down, going in again, because it's almost like, oh, here we go again, sort of thing. And it was great to see that Steph Catley putting her body on the line as well. Yeah,
absolutely. So we've gone in level at the break. Do you remember the goal disallowed from Blackstenius? I think that's the next thing we've got on the agenda. Do you want to talk through that?
So this one, it was just a couple. I thought it was a couple of minutes into the first half. I was expecting around the 5th minute. I didn't realise it was just a minute after the kickoff, when the ball's fallen to Steph Catley. Steph Catley, and she put a ball across the box, and Stina's once again there to tap it into the back of the net. Unfortunately, Steph Catley is offside.
Real shame. Would have been
it was a real shame. But again, the semi-automated decision. So when it went to VAR, that was the problem. Instead of them saying, they were saying it was a goal check, fine, goal check, that's fine, not a problem. But then when you say there's an offside in the build-up, it kind of deflates you a little bit as well, because it's just like, why didn't you put your flag up during the entire during the phase? So then we didn't have to go through the joys of, oh, we're 2-1 up here, and then realizing, oh no, we're back to 1-1. It was a very emotional day.
It questions like common sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think what you're getting at, and I think the assistants are given the directive to keep your flag down. I think that's why VAR is there, but it's still nonetheless very confusing, particularly for the paying customers at the stadium, like you were, sir.
Yeah.
Am I right? Yeah, exactly.
Ideally, if we're going to talk about this a bit quicker, just VAR, if there were timings within this match where some of the VAR decisions were quick and easy, some of them were felt like they went on for hours. They just need to like a window of just saying, right, you've got 2 minutes to make a decision within. If that's the case, if you don't make a decision within those 2 minutes, then stick with the on-field decision. Simple as that. Something like that. So then it doesn't confuse as confusion. It's just a bit of an issue. Sorry, we'll go on to the next part.
Mate, you're absolutely fine. Relax. It's all good. It's all good. So we've gone from us thinking we're 2-1 ahead to, unfortunately, us going 2-1 behind, and it's former Arsenal player Pop who scored from a near post header from a corner kick.
Yes, and there was some confusion about who was supposed to be marking her between Frida Marnham and Rafael Souza. Unfortunately, none of them picked her up, and it was she just managed to just nod it in from the front post, and it's one of those where you shouldn't really be able to score from there, but somehow it's managed to go in. And when you're sitting down the other end of the stadium and you're wondering how has that managed to go in, it does question like the positions that they were making at that moment in time.
Absolutely, to get beaten on near post as well was absolutely gutting. I don't think they deserved that at all, to be honest. But that's the position they were. The next thing I want to talk about is a little bit of a tactical change that happened afterwards, and it was after 64 minutes, and when Stina Baxtenius, who I thought had an excellent game, was replaced by Lisa Hurting. I think her name is that right? Hunting. Yeah. Well, yeah. You got me. What were your thoughts about that substitution? Because I didn't quite understand it myself.
The problem is when you're playing such intense games and there isn't like another match or sort of a breaker in between. So say, instead of playing Man United's Wolfsburg, it would have probably been easier to have Wolfsburg on the weekend, Man United on that weekday and the Wednesday, and then have the Wolfsburg game, because then it gives like an alteration because of our squad size, because of other things that have gone on. Jodie Taylor wasn't able to come on. Gio's been unfortunately excluded from the Champions League squad as well. So Stina, the rumor was going around that Stina felt something. So I don't know if it meant she pulled something or she felt like it was. So, but she didn't want to risk it. So she's just saying. So I don't know if they've said that she wants to come off just as a precaution. We actually know at this moment in time she's fine. She's not injured.
Right. Okay.
So the fact that Lena Hersey came on was important because she hasn't played for a long time as well. So for her to get minutes ahead of the game against Leicester is important, because she needed to find that rhythm. At times she did find it, at other times she didn't. But it also meant the old tactic of play Jem Beattie up front for the next 10 minutes and see how it goes. which we all seem to love and enjoy quite a lot at the moment.
We'll get there in just a second, because there's one other thing that I've got written down before we get there. And there was a massive chance to actually kill the tie off. Now, I don't know my pronunciations right. I don't speak fluent German and stuff, unfortunately. But there was a massive chance, I think it's in the 68th minute, where Hoot came through and had a massive sort of one-on-one chance, but the shot was dragged wide.
Yeah, again, it's a really odd one. You usually in these sorts of games, the big players like a Hoot, a Latvine, a Pop, Jonsrot here as well. We did actually really well with Jonsrot here because we kept her very quiet. She didn't seem to have as many shots on target as she usually does, or she didn't seem to be as effective as she usually is. So for that to happen, but it's almost like that's the sort of sign of this is going to be our day, because if players are missing or not even hitting the target at that point, you're thinking they can't get, if they're not able to kill off the tie, we've got to make sure we get something back here.
Yeah. And as you just mentioned a minute ago, the tactic of putting Jem Beattie, the centre half, going up top, it came good, didn't it? Because in the 75th minute, Steph Catley hit a free kick on the left-hand side, which managed to find her centre-back partner, Lotta, who crossed the ball into Jem Beattie with a beautiful header. It's a heck of a story, this one.
It was a very unusual Arsenal goal, but it was great to see that our centre backs are also contributing. I think Rafael Souza is actually, funny enough, scored 4 goals this season, all from headers and corners. It's important that in these sorts of games that we've got some sort of backup just in case. So if one person's not scoring, other people are stepping up and scoring. And especially with our squad at the moment, because of the injuries, a lot of players have stepped up and been scoring. There was a lot of questions over the foul in the build up. There was also a question of offside as well. But for Jem Beattie to put that header away, to make it 2-2 on the night, it was just fantastic, because the stadium just almost was on a trip to the moon. It felt like, because that stadium was rocking, and I couldn't believe. I don't think we could believe it when the VAR turned around and said, "Yeah, it's given."
Wonderful stuff. So that's how the game ended in normal time. It ended 2-2. Just before I think it was just before the final whistle, wasn't it? It was about 87 minutes. I think it's very important to talk about Laura Winreuther, who came on as substitute, didn't she? And unfortunately has picked up a really nasty injury. It's another ACL injury. And the club have confirmed the bad news today, Matt.
Yes, that was we were kind of hoping that it wouldn't be the dreaded 3-letter word ACL. We was hoping that it wouldn't be as bad, but when you do see the game back, you can almost tell at this moment in time. She's just running for the ball, and there's nothing wrong with her. No one's challenged her or anything. She's just tries to get the ball, and next minute she's just on the floor. It was just a lot of us were quite worried, especially when she was on a stretcher. A huge mention to Viviane Miedema, because she actually went around trying to talk to her, trying to get her into some sort of level of calmness, which was great to see.
And you mentioned Viv there, mate. I've got her tweet there, and it's now a fully fledged member of the ACL club. The 4 of them are there together. Viv, Beth, Leah, and now Laura. I know this is something that's is definitely been being looked at. Well, I think we've touched upon this before, but the amount of serious ACL injuries that are coming into the ladies' game, such a talented pool of players as well. is definitely something that's going to require a little bit more of an investigation, isn't it?
It does, and it works out really bad as well because there's other teams that have had this in the past. So Leon ended up having the same situation, 4 players out with an ACL. On top of that, actually, it would have been 5 because Daniel van der Donk in the same period when they went on to win the Champions League last season. So you would have thought maybe that would have been something that would have been maybe some sort of hidden sign. Oh, because of all these injuries, potentially it's this, but it's just it didn't feel like that. But a lot of the injuries have happened, and it seems to happen when they're at a peak.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and it's certainly for us in terms of certainly so many important, especially if you look at how the short time that we lost Miedemar, then Beth, that attacking talent, it's so difficult to replace, and now with the leadership of Leah gone, and now Laura from Monday, it's decimating our numbers. It showed on our sub bench as well, by the way, on Monday night, how young some of the replacements were. It was mentioned on commentary as well. Some of the lack of experience on some of that bench. Some of it was with youth products, wasn't it?
Yes, and one of them was it was Hubbard who was actually added late into the tie to make up sure we had enough numbers on the bench at the very least. I think a lot of us weren't expecting us to have this many injuries, but the club are constantly looking at what needs to change and how they can go forward with this. What does the medical staff need? Does they need any help with it? Anything you can think of, they're already thinking of and trying to make sure that this team has everything that they need to make sure that things like this don't happen again.
Absolutely. So I think the next thing we'll touch upon is Lotte Rubens-Moy goal disallowed in extra time. I know it was a pretty clear one, but she did the right thing absolutely in that period of play where she put the ball in the net for the VAR to make a decision.
It kind of felt like she was breakdancing because she was on the floor and she just decided to hit it in, and then the referee blew the whistle. But it's just one of those where you kind of do it and then you wait for the whistle. Unfortunately, it was offside. So at this time, the flag actually went up. But it was a bit of a shame because there was a couple of times where you felt if we don't win it, there was plenty of opportunities in extra time to try and win the tie. And unfortunately, it just didn't happen before XYZ reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking of XYZ reasons, so it's looking good, mate. We're going to go penalties, right? Be fine.
You think so?
Did it? Would you like to talk through what happened?
So, a few moments before, Katie had hit the crossbar, and this was funny enough where Lotta is right now. Imagine hitting the crossbar on the wing, right in the dead center. That was exactly where she hit the crossbar. A few minutes later, Arsenal have the ball. Manu Zinsberger goes and plays it out to Lotta. Lotta's got the ball, and without realizing it, she's got a player behind her, and she loses the ball. Wolfsburg go and counter, and it is Brahma who slots home into an empty net.
Yeah, absolutely heartbreaking. It's an absolutely awful way to lose such a high-profile game, and I feel for them as well, as a whole team as well, because I felt they conducted themselves so well in front of a massive crowd at the Emirates of 60,063 people. It was such a terrible shame to go out on a mistake that could have been avoided. I suppose tired minds as well at that sort of stage in the game, I guess. And it wasn't to be. Nonetheless, Matt, I'm sure you'll agree with me here that the Arsenal ladies did a tremendous match. They performed exceptionally well against a very good Wolfsburg side, who will have a heck of a final against Barcelona, won't they?
If I'm honest, if at this moment in time, do I see Arsenal going and beating Barcelona? I would probably say no. They can put up a good shot of fight like Chelsea did, but they wouldn't be able to possibly go the distance because of the players that we have out. But this is a huge improvement. Let it be known that this time last season we had been knocked out to Wolfsburg, and then we've been knocked out of the FA Cup to Chelsea in the semi-finals, and we were already knocked out of the Conti Cup to Manchester United. This time around, we've won the Conti Cup. We got knocked out by Chelsea again in the 5th round of the FA Cup, and then we've gone to the semi-finals of the Champions League. The league itself is still up for grabs. Whether or not it happens, whether or not it's Champions League qualification, still means it needs to be seen. But these girls just didn't give up, and even Michelle Agamemnon getting a few minutes against Wolfsburg right at the end. These sorts of experiences, you realise you want to feel them again. You want to make sure that you have them again. So that's going to be the motivation towards the end of the season, to make sure that next season Champions League is a must.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the WSL. I have prepared for us off Google. I hope you can see that better than I can, because I can't see a blinking thing on that. But it just goes to show, even after the results the other night with Chelsea winning right the last minute, with Man United winning quite late on against Aston Villa during the weekend, I think it was. Yeah. How tight the whole table is, especially with Arsenal with games to play. And with that, I'll ask a question. How are you feeling coming towards tomorrow's game with Leicester City?
It's an interesting one, because you look at that table, to just put it into perspective. Potentially, you've got 4 teams that are trying to stay out of relegation, and between Tottenham, Leicester, Brighton, and Reading on bottom at the moment on 11 points. There's 3 points in it. So essentially, for Leicester, if they go and beat Arsenal tomorrow, they're safe. For someone like Brighton, 3 points and they're automatically safe. For someone like a Tottenham, you would probably say a draw, or at the very least a win in their next couple of games. They could be very well safe. However, I believe Tottenham have the worst run of them all, because they've actually got everyone in that top 4, top 5
right
left to play, and that includes Reading as well. And Reading as well are in a similar boat. So the title is firmly anyone's guess at the moment in time. Just on predictions alone, it looks like Chelsea are going to win the league. You'd expect Chelsea to win that. Then it's those second and third spots that are going to be quite interesting. I've been saying all season that United will crumble, and although it didn't happen against us, I'm hoping that it happens against City, because City are in very good form at the moment. I think as well we've got the extra motivation of ourselves missing out on a European Champions League final, so we would want to make up for it and want to go again. For me, I don't want to see us finish third. Ideally, I'd want us to finish second, but at this moment in time, you never know. It could end up being that it could be a point, it could be goal difference that just decides who's going to be in that Champions League spot and who's going to be just outside. And it could be said exactly the same for the Reading and the other 4 teams down there at the bottom that are trying to stay up.
Yeah. I think what you probably meant to say is, in an ideal world, I think Arsenal win the league. But I know what you're trying to get.
For Arsenal to win the league, everyone needs to drop points. And unfortunately, with Chelsea having, I'd probably say the easier ties. The only big teams that they've got left, funny enough, is us at Kings Meadow on the second to last day of the season. Well, the second to their last home game of the season.
Right.
Our last away game of the season as well. So it's going to be difficult because 3 points could quite easily not. They could turn around and realise that 3 points won't just. They've already say at that point they've already won the league. 3 points may not make a difference. However, we beat them 3-1 in the Conti Cup, so they'll probably be out for revenge as well. So it's too difficult to call. And the fact is that they've made that stadium a fortress, so it makes it even more difficult to say.
Fair enough, mate. Well, we'll come back on the channel. I don't know when it's going to be yet, but we'll certainly cover the result of Friday night football. We'll get Arsenal against Leicester. We'll probably go. I probably think about doing that Saturday, but we'll figure out exactly how we're going to do it shortly. I think that will just about, as I just moved the camera unnecessarily. Sorry about that. I think that'll just about wrap us up for today, mate. So what we'll do, if I'll pop my little banner on the screen there, tell everybody where they can find you on your Twitter.
So my Twitter is @MattLR28.
Thank you very much. You can find me at Goonerly Meads on Twitter. You can find us all here on Gooner Gathering, at Gooner Gathering. We are going to be back for a live stream. Me and Posh Bertie will be with us sometime tomorrow evening. That will be Friday night. Don't know exactly when yet, but I'll put the tweet out probably lunchtime tomorrow. Just talk about the men's team. We'll probably talk about Man City versus West Ham and how Arsenal will approach Sunday's game against Newcastle. But until then, thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Take care of yourselves, look after each other, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.